Cyclist, did you see that car coming? Hi folks, this is Charlie Fuller, and I just wanted to ask you something that sounds embarrassingly simple. Did you look before you pulled into the intersection? And I bet you did. I bet you looked with the full confidence of a man who's been crossing streets since cars had fins and gas cost a quarter, and I remember that. Now, let me ask you the harder question. Did you actually see anything? Because looking and seeing are not the same thing. And on a bicycle, that difference is measured in ambulance response time. Now let me tell you about a Friday morning last spring. 30 miles in, legs loose, routine familiar, brain somewhere between present moment and what I was planning for lunch. I came to an intersection I've crossed probably 100 times. Looked left, looked right, nothing. I pulled out. Then out of what appeared to be thin air, a car materialized directly in my path. Silver sedan. Driver absolutely riveted to his phone, which tells you everything you need to know about the state of modern civilization. Now here's the thing. The car had been there the whole time. It just didn't drop out of the sky. It hadn't teleported in from a parallel dimension where traffic laws are merely a suggestion. It was just sitting there, doing what cars do, existing in space, which is generally all it takes to ruin your morning. I had looked at my right. My brain just quietly decided it wasn't worth mentioning. There's a name for this. The scientists call it unintentional blindness. I call it the single most dangerous thing on two wheels that nobody puts on a safety checklist. Now here's the mechanics. Your eyes are not a camera. They don't sweep the scene, record the footage, and then send it upstairs for a nice leisure review. Your brain is constantly sorting incoming information and deciding at a speed that makes Wall Street trading algorithms look sluggish what deserves conscious attention and what gets quietly filed. And sometimes it files the wrong thing. Think of it as the world's most overworked bouncer at the world's busiest club. 1,000 things are trying to get in every second, and some get waved through, most get redirected. And occasionally, something important like a 2-ton vehicle operated by a gentleman whose eyes haven't left his Instagram feed since Tuesday gets turned away at the door. Not because the bouncer isn't doing the job, because the bouncer is exhausted. Your visual system is the most sophisticated piece of hardware on the planet, and it still misfires regularly without warning. Often at intersections that you personally could navigate blindfolded because you've ridden through them hundreds of times. So the research on this is genuinely unsettling. Studies have shown that people can look directly at something, a flashlight, a person with a bright vest, even a full-grown gorilla walking through a basketball game, which I assure you is a real experiment and not something I hallucinated along the ride. And it failed to consciously register it. The brain looked, the brain shrugged, and the brain moved on. Now, when you're on a bicycle, that shrug is the gap between a good story and a cautionary tale. And let me tell you, urban traffic will expose that gap fast. Cities are basically an ongoing experiment in how many stimuli you can throw at a human brain before it starts dropping things. Delivery trucks double parked in a bike lane. A lady walking 3 dogs, all pulling in different directions like a canine congressional hearing. A food delivery guy on an e-bike going approximately the speed of sound in the wrong direction. Your brain is triaging all of it simultaneously. Something is going to get missed. The question is whether that something is a pothole or a pickup truck. So here's what I do about it. And I want you to hear this carefully because it's simple, it's free, and it has kept an 85-year-old man upright on city streets long enough to tell you about it. I look twice. Not a nervous tick, not paranoid rubbernecking, a deliberate, purposeful second look with a specific job to do. The first look gathers raw information. The second look audits the raw information because here's what changes between look 1 and look 2. Everything. A car that was 50 yards out now is 30 yards out. The gap you saw was already closed. The road that looked clear has, in the time it took you to process your first glance, acquired a bicycle messenger who appears to operate under the sincere belief that red lights are decorative. Most importantly, the second look forces your brain back to the present tense. You've interrupted the autopilot, and you're no longer running on a cache information from a fraction of a second ago. You are seeing what is actually there right now in real time. I look left, I look right, I look left again before I move a single wheel forward. Now, I'm especially disciplined about this on familiar routes because familiarity, my friends, is where your brain goes and takes a nap. A new intersection gets my full attention. An old one gets my habit. And habits without discipline are just routines waiting to go wrong in traffic. Think of it as a second look as a quality check. Now, you wouldn't wire your entire retirement portfolio off one glance at a stock ticker. Don't stake your collarbone on one glance at a four-way stop. I've been riding through cities long enough to have watched horses get replaced by Buicks. I'm just kidding with that. Buicks get replaced by Priuses, which I know about, and Priuses get replaced by people on e-scooters who frankly terrify me more than any of the above. And one thing that has never changed in this, the road does not care how experienced you are. It does not reward confidence. It does not give points for years in the saddle. It is entirely indifferent to your track record. Okay, let me take this a step further. Several of my regular rides require crossing 3 lanes of traffic in each direction at busy, traffic-lighted, controlled intersections. Like everyone else, I wait patiently for a green light. The instant it turns green, my first instinct is to start pedaling across. But here's the question. Just because I have the green light, does that automatically mean it's safe? Not at all. How many times have you seen a driver speed up to beat a red light? They may be looking at the signal instead of the cyclist already entering the intersection. Now, if I simply assume that my green light guarantees my safety, I'm taking a risk I don't need to take. Instead, I pause for just a moment and take one more look. Now, I make sure every lane of traffic is actually stopping before I commit to crossing. That extra second has become one of my best safety habits. In another example of what I call the second look, it costs almost nothing, but it can keep you from becoming part of somebody else's mistake. What the road does not respond to is attention, real attention, not the performance kind, not the automatic kind, the kind where you look and then you look again because your brain is magnificent and fallible and doing its best out there with approximately 11,000 inputs competing for airtime. One look tells you what's there. 2 looks tells you what's true. The car that almost got me that spring morning wasn't a product of reckless riding. It was a product of a single glance, trusted too completely, questioned too late. Don't let half of a second of complacency write the last line of your story. Be safe, and I'll see you on the road. This is Charlie.